It's the story of a war inside a man. Better than food, man. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Better Than Food Book Reviews. I'm your host, Clifford Lee Sargent. Great to see you as always. Hope you're doing well. Today we have a legendary author writing about a legendary rock and roll icon, so buckle up your seatbelts and get that coffee. Black is my soul. Also, if you'd just like to pick the mug up and support the show, there's a link below. Thank you so much. You know, I seriously doubt that Nick Tosches thought that he would go before Jerry Lee Lewis, but life is stranger than fiction. Today's episode is brought to you by this Ridge Wallet carbon fiber pocket knife. Oh, that sound. Let's hear it again. Nice. The pandemic has forced a lot of changes, and some of us have had to pick up new hobbies. I myself have taken up whittling. Okay, I've never whittled a day in my life, but I like this knife. This is the Ridge knife from Ridge Wallet, and it is just terrific. In all seriousness, though, it is a very useful piece for everyday carry. It's got a little clip there to put on your pocket. Cool design, lightweight. What a nice birthday present, no? Please use it responsibly and not under the influence. But yeah, if you're an outdoorsman, if you like camping or hiking, I feel like this is going to be a very useful tool. Of course, I also have these awesome wallets, which I love, and they're fantastic, really cool minimalist design. Holds up to 12 cards plus room for cash on the back. You can go check out their 30,000 5-star reviews. This is the last wallet you'll need to buy. There's a lifetime warranty on it, and they're an awesome company. This one is my go-to. It's the matte black titanium. Get 10% off your order today with free worldwide shipping and returns by going to ridge.com/betterthanfood and using the discount code betterthanfood. The link is below. Thanks a bunch. I've been wanting to get to this for quite some time, so this is Hellfire, the Jerry Lee Lewis story by Nick Tosches. It says on the cover here, the greatest rock and roll biography ever written, from Rolling Stone. Before I crack this open, if you would have asked me if I thought music journalism was literature, I would have emphatically said no. It can be great reading, but no. My answer has changed. This book transcends music biography to become this all-encompassing narrative with fictional liberties added by Tosches that create the film behind your eyes. You know what I mean? It's perfect, really. It's the story of a war inside a man, about the struggle of heaven and hell tearing apart the insides of a single person, of a single being, for whom it's impossible to do anything balanced, to keep any kind of harmony. The guy had a drive so fierce it makes Napoleon look lazy. Now that being said, of course, he's a totally repulsive character. Spoiler alert for all of you who don't know the story of Jerry Lee Lewis, but I assume there are plenty of you out there watching who know the basics, the scandals. So if you don't know, if you don't want to hear the spoiler, you might want to go read it first. At least the big one, which is, you know, he married his 13-year-old cousin, and according to Tosches, treated her and many other people horribly. Like, being associated with this guy in any way sounds like being trapped in a Category 5 hurricane. He once drunkenly shot his bass player in the chest with a 357 Magnum, I think. I'm pretty sure John Lennon kissed his feet when they met. Yeah, I think that embarrassed him. That embarrassed me too. I think I learned that from the Wikipedia page. I don't think that was mentioned in the book. I think Tosches hates the Beatles. But Jesus, you have to stand back in awe. Just awe, right? The drugs, the rise and fall, the sins, the partying, the history, the culture, the intersection of rock and roll personalities, Sun Records, Memphis, Elvis, Cash, as in Johnny, the music, the live performances. Holy shit. It's just a thrilling catastrophe if you like this stuff. I learned about the $1 Million Quartet. That story is in here, which refers to Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, Elvis, and Johnny Cash. It so happened that all of them were at the studio together one day, and they had this jam session, and it got recorded, and so that's music history. Jerry Lee Lewis had a kind of this competitive thing with Elvis. The book opens with Jerry Lee driving up to Graceland with a gun, hollering for Elvis, saying he wants to see him. Now, we don't know whether or not he actually wanted to shoot him. He didn't shoot him, but he didn't get to see him, I don't think. And so you watch him when he's younger performing in these videos, and he's like, you know, he's fresh, he's got this baby face. I mean, he's got this like super intense energy, but then you watch interviews from later, I think in the 70s, and he's got this slicked back hair, and he's got this beard going, this cigar, and he's just his voice is deeper and shit. He looks like a mob guy. What a transformation. It's so dark. He's like Serge Gainsbourg or something like that, but even way tougher, way scarier. Yeah, it's great though. Jerry Lee Lewis was an egomaniac on par with like Kanye West or Donald Trump. I actually saw a photo of him and Donald Trump from back in the day too. Speaks of himself in the third person in interviews, you know, that kind of thing. Him and the people around him were on enough drugs, enough pills and booze to make Hunter S. Thompson go, easy does it, man. Neither in success or failure was there anything modest about Jerry Lee Lewis. And he's still alive. He's still alive, and it's wild because now you like see him as like this nice old man who's talking to his Facebook fans, and it's like, oh, that's cute. And this guy's nickname was the Killer. Man, you know, this dude was like dangerous. Just makes you think. Anytime you see a nice old man or lady on the street, they may at one point have been known as the Killer. I'm not even a Jerry Lee Lewis fan, really, you know, but the 1957 Steve Allen Show performance of Whole Lotta Shakin' Going On is about as close as you can come to unfiltered rock and roll. So the entire book starts with his family bloodline down in Louisiana, right? Jerry Lee Lewis was brought up around Southern Pentecostal Christianity, speaking in tongues and stuff. Hard Southern culture. I mean, grim, tough, like fucking tough as nails shit. Very dramatic, right? Theatrical. Originally, he was going to be a preacher, and sure enough, his cousin, Jimmy Lee Swaggart, became an evangelist, and a famous one, with some scandals involving prostitutes, I might add. But that Pentecostal upbringing, you can see that in Jerry Lee Lewis's performances right from the beginning. That kind of intensity, that fire and brimstone, mixed in with this heathen libidinal energy, right? This like really diabolical rock and roll attitude. I mean, he's jumping off and he's like hitting the piano, right? And he's like kicking the stool away and then he's playing the piano with his foot. He's like jumping up and down. Man, that guy was a trip. Rock and roll, of course, was born from black music, and Jerry Lee Lewis spent his earlier days sneaking into and getting kicked out of a black juke joint called Haney's Big House, watching musicians and kind of just soaking it up like a sponge. And one of the greatest moments in the book, actually, is when there's this like car dealership and they have like a new Ford model or something, I think. And it's the first time everybody realizes that he can play. And there's a piano there at this event, you know, and it's like this little shindig. And this kid jumps on the piano and he starts playing Wine Spodioti. Drinkin' Wine Spodioti was originally by this guy named Stick McGee, or Sticks McGee. I've seen it spelled both ways, I'm not sure. And Sticks wrote this when he was in the military, right? And it was just all about getting fucked up, right? So this like 14-year-old kid jumps on this piano and starts doing this, drinking wine, Spodioti, drinking wine. And you know, the line Wine Spodioti, again, Sticks, in the military when he wrote this, the original lines of the song were drinking wine, motherfucker, drinking wine. God damn, you know, pass that bottle to me. So the cleaned up version is the one that got recorded by Sticks, and that's the version that Jerry Lee Lewis does. And I don't know if the original was written on piano. I think Lewis did the piano thing. I think the original one was on guitar. Anyways, it's interesting. Great Balls of Fire, which is probably Lewis's most famous song, was written by a fellow named Otis Blackwell, who was this songwriter who had a huge impact on rock and roll. He wrote Fever, the song Fever, which is like a rock standard, Don't Be Cruel, which was recorded by Elvis, and yeah, Great Balls of Fire. Huge talent. But obviously it's a total shame that he's not more well known. So I encourage you to check him out. So the book is terrific. It starts out with this Faulknerian family bloodline introduction, talking about the terrain, right? The southern dirt from which he comes from. And then the other chapters are named like, the Devil in Concordia Parish, Golgotha, Mammon. They're very much the inferno that we're descending into. I'm reading Dante's Inferno right now, recommendation from Julia. Thank you very much. And I think that'll be a nice follow-up to this if I can finish it in time. Might be a few more down the line, but I've never read it before, and I've got to read it. So as you could guess, the book chronicles the rise and fall. I mean, there might be several, I think, actually. It's really amazing. He had the whole scandal with his cousin, which led to the first fall. You know, he got really famous when he was young, and the scandal broke. That brought him crashing down, and then he rose up again. And then he fell, I believe, again. Now, the infamous incident with Myra Gale, his cousin, was not actually the thing that destroyed him. How somebody comes back from that, I don't know. I mean, in fact, it could be argued in the end, technically, that nothing did destroy him. He's still with us. But what I love about the book is that it captures the tragedy in this man's quest, you know, the sadness. That Southern Gothic man against himself, against the demon conflict. The deep yearning for something, but he knows not what. The impossibility for him to serve two masters, I think, as he puts it. He's either loyal to God or Satan, and it seems like he fluctuates dramatically. That's not at all foreign to any of us, you know? And is totally relatable, even in the story of a man who just embodies conflict like Jerry Lee Lewis. The story of a man who is, at many points in his life, evil. And the embodiment of that conflict, combined with the explosive performance, that kind of raised the dead catharsis must have been what attracted Nick Tosches to the story. Soon, Jerry Lee moved his family into a new home at 5042 East Shore Drive out near Coral Lake. It was a fine ranch-style house with 4 bedrooms, a large patio, and a swimming pool. Jerry Lee would sit by the pool in the early evening, at that hour when the sun began to fall and the darkling, sighing colors came. He would sit there and not smile and not think. It was only a matter of time, he knew, till he would once again be redeemed. He would sit there, gazing at the tame, purling water, and he would know that. And he would make a fist, wishing that there were a horse that he could knock to its fucking knees. Tosches is interested, like many authors I've reviewed recently, in the juxtaposition of high and low. And, you know, this is a recurring theme in all the books that I review. Anything that is just one monotonous note is boring. You gotta throw some chaos into the mix, and that usually means, you know, opposites, contrast, whatever you want to call it. It's really difficult to decide who is more interesting with this review, the author or the subject. I think personally I choose the author, actually. Nick Tosches was one of the most badass legends in American writing. I once almost got to meet him at a Soho cigar bar in Manhattan. On my first trip to New York, I think. It was either the first or the second. I knew he was a regular there, and the waitress told me he'd been in that day, but I missed him by a few hours. Then he passed on October 20th, 2019. Just in time. I'm sure he would have cringed hard at my reviews, but it would have been great to buy him a drink, you know? I liked him a lot. He seemed like a cool guy. He was a character in himself, carved by his obsessions. Would have been great if somebody did a biography on him. Him and Bourdain had a drink in a bar on no reservations, bitching about why they can't get a drink in a decent bar in New York anymore. It's pretty funny. Tosches worked at the Miami Serpentarium in Florida as a snake hunter in the early 70s. I mean, can you imagine? He's this guy who likes underground rock and roll, who's a snake hunter. Man. He writes fiction as well. He wrote one called In the Hand of Dante, which I've read and I enjoyed, but I can't remember it. It's been years since I read it. He gives me the impression of being kind of like he's like a Catholic gone bad, you know what I mean? He's like an East Coast tough guy from Jersey with a penchant for crime stories, Greek poetry, old school early rock and roll, and all things related to the devil. He was one of a kind, I'm telling you. He wrote a foreword or an introduction or something for William Lindsay Gresham's Nightmare Alley, which is a terrific book about a crooked carny. I have a review of that one, great read. Tosches also wrote a stellar biography on Dean Martin. Dino is the name of it, which I reviewed and have since deleted because it was embarrassing, but you know, it's okay. I shall re-review that one day because it's a hell of a great book. I gotta read you a bit from this piece on Tosches by Mike Milliard, which I've linked to in the description below. For more than 30 years, Tosches has been the nattily-dressed scumbag sage of American letters, a cerebral, autodidactic hybrid of Jersey City hood and polymath savant. I read a lot, he says of his formative years, despite the fact that they were spent in a town of few books, many bookies. His body of work harnesses these two extremes, commingling the sacred and the profane. It is as awash in Seagrams and seamen as it is grounded in the dusky eloquence of classical epics. Tosches is a writer who will weave a paragraph with gossamer Latinate prose, drop in some Hellenic or Hebrew characters incomprehensible to the lion's share of his readers, then pocket with 7 or 8 well-placed F-words. In his oeuvre, terms like chthonic and threnody, to name just 2 favorites, might share the page harmoniously with a phrase like fucking discombobulated fucking stiff. I've always felt an affinity for both the high and the low, Tosches says, his Jersey accent sludge thick. It's like Oscar Wilde says, we are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. But if you look at the world, most people are actually too dumb to be either sacred or profane at this point. Everything's politically correct, lukewarm. Like that word in the book, iviliaki, the cowards, means. It works for certain types of herbal tea, but not for life. Hell of a book, hell of an author, love it. Rest in power, Nick Tosches. You became a legend writing legends. Jerry Lee Lewis had something interesting to say about legends. On the night of December 27, while performing at the Executive Inn in Evansville, Indiana, he paused between songs to take a sip. You're looking at a living legend, he said, and then fell silent for a moment. You know, that really worries me. I always thought a legend was something dead. And then he recommenced The Devil's Boogie, a hideous glory of a book, a magnificently told story about a wretched but fascinating character. The language is coarse, gritty, rough, vulgar, all of that. The story is a dark one. You've probably gathered that I'm not really one for happy endings. Better Than Food, without question. Loved it. So you should read it. Well, if you enjoy Southern Gothic literature or music, without a doubt. Any fan of Cormac McCarthy, Flannery O'Connor, William Faulkner, Harry Crews, Nick Cave, get it immediately. Required reading. Absolutely 100% must read. I wouldn't be surprised if Cave was reading it when he was writing And the Ass Saw the Angel, actually. Better Than Food, without question. Loved it. Coffee time. For those of you who are new, I take all of the patrons on Patreon who have donated $5 or more per video and I place their names in this mason jar. I pull out a name for every review and I send whoever's name I pull out a hard copy of the book I'm reviewing plus a bag of coffee roasted by yours truly. And the coffee is delicious. I've got an Ethiopian that I'm sending out the last bit of and then another Ethiopian coming in. This one right now has been delicious and I expect great things from the next one. If you would like to get in on that, thank you so much. I really appreciate the support. You can click on the link below or go to patreon.com/books are better than food and donate $5 or more per video. $1 or more will get you access to the Patreon-only reviews, the Discord channel, and the Better Than Friday newsletter that I send out every Friday, which is just a list of 5 different things I'm interested in at any given time. Could be books, songs, films, clips, articles, changes week to week. If you think we have similar taste, I think you'll get a lot of value out of that. Anyways, I'm tired of shaking this thing. Whole lot of shaking going on. Whole lot of shaking going on. That Discord is also awesome, by the way, just gotta let you know. Unfortunately, international shipping is not included. Sorry about that. Thank you very much to all the patrons and best of luck. Okay, here we go. Chipper B. Thank you very much, Chipper. Really appreciate it. You're gonna receive Hellfire by Nick Tosches, plus a bag of delicious coffee. Hope you love both. Thank you very much. And whoever broke that like ratio in the last video where it had 1,800 thumbs up and 1 thumb down, whoever that thumbs down was, please subscribe if you have not already. Please hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed this. And always remember, bring a book, wherever you go, even to hell. Especially when you go to purgatory or limbo. I hear things move slow down there. Please go listen to some Jerry Lee Lewis and old rock and roll. I mean, watch the clips below at least. And read more Tosches. He's underrated as far as I'm concerned. Great to see you as always. Take care of yourselves. Have a good night. Talk to you soon. Ciao.